Watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tata. The Africa we want. Unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa.
So good evening, greetings to everyone out there, my dear family. Today we are live on Pan-African Daily TV with our special guest, King MAPONGA Joshua, whom apparently last week, because of technical issues, we could not actually have to digest and enjoy his wonderful teachings and conversations. So today we are having him back live on Pan-African Daily. It's going to be a beautiful, wonderful show. King MAPONGA is coming back to us full speed and strength with all the knowledge from the ancestors, knowledge of the past, knowledge of the present, and knowledge for the future. So I look forward to all of you that are connecting, that are joining this conversation tonight. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day here on Pan-African Daily TV. I want to see all of you join in. I know you were already anticipating, waiting for so long to have King MAPONGA here. I mean, in full flesh, right? In the way we know him. So the King is coming with so much knowledge to empower us. And we also have, a contribution to make. And the topic today is about our indigenous culture. Indigenous culture and how it impacts our lives of today. How do we rebrand our culture? All those beautiful things that we know about our ancient culture, the culture of living together as a family, the culture of raising our children, the culture of our medicines, our technology, the culture that we used to gather around, sharing with one another. I know you all missed us, but we are here tonight. So we have a wonderful show today, and we have a lot of announcements also to make and, feedbacks to share with you from the continent. Thank you. Greetings, Sister Elizabeth. Thank you for being here. You always opening this door, and Petros was also here already waiting. So without waiting for so long, I know, when we have King MAPONGA on the show, it takes really a while for us to reconnect. He's right here in the studio, and I can already add him live on stage, as you can see. Today, there's not going to be any kind of disturbances, whether from our side, whether from his side. Everything is just looking cool, as you can see. The King sitting right there in his thoughts, and he's been traveling. I mean, when I got him, he was on the plane. He's just landed in Harare right now, and yeah. Greetings to you, my King. Greetings. Welcome once more. How was the trip?
No, very eventful. We meeting various people in various spaces and trying to fix the continent the best way we can. And it has been a very interesting build-up to the Namibian elections that are upon us, and some business development within the region, particularly the Kasane project, which is dear to my heart, where 5 countries are meeting on the Great Zambezi, that is Angola, Zambia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, and Namibia, right on the river of Zambezi. And I think if the political parties of the 5 countries could begin a conversation, we could be seeing one of the biggest cosmopolitan cities being built around the Great Zambezi River. Virgin land, good agriculture, hippos, crocodiles, game reserves. And I think the whole idea of in Africa with one currency, a borderless Africa, can begin to be realized, because once you are able to unite these 5 countries into a cosmopolitan city, we are looking at business transactions, the banking, the sharing of the tourism. Victoria Falls is just a stone throw away. Chobe is a stone throw away. Zambia is a stone throw away. Caprivi, Katima Mlilo is a stone throw away. Angola, literally you have 5 countries that are meeting in the river. And I would not understand why our political leaders will not be able to harness such a great amount of connectivity and convert that into one of the modern cities. I've even decided to call it Zimbangola Nima something. I put the name actually to name the city ahead of its construction, where the 5 countries can actually begin to instigate or discuss, plan, and put this city, enough water in terms of reserve, tourism, copper from Zambia, oil from Angola, tourism, Botswana and Zimbabwe and Namibia. And I think it offers our leaders one of the rarest opportunity on the entire universe, where 5 countries are all meeting at one river. And I think Zambezi is one of those projects that I would want to start promoting amongst the political leaders within ZANU-PF, BMP in Botswana, SWAPO in MPLA in Angola, UNDP in Zambia, and see if we can, even if we'll not be able to achieve it now, but to get the conversation started. And that's what has been keeping me occupied for the past 1 week. And I'm very excited to have toured the place, met up with the governors and the mayors in Katima Mulilo, and we may want to spill that over into Kasane, the Botswana side, the Victoria Falls municipality, the Livingstone municipality, and the Angola municipality. And I think we are sitting on a gold mine of unprecedented opportunity that can allow Africans to be in power, in control, in charge, and in development of a new narrative. I thank you.
I just don't want to get emotional right now. I mean, so you're telling us that the project is already in, like, it's already, like, the leaders are already meeting. Let's just say, even just to have an idea, a common idea, that, like, there've been roundtables and meetings which you have been a part. Like, there is something. Tell us more, my king, because, like, I just don't want to jump and start shouting, because Victoria Falls and the Zambezi, that particular middle point, I think it's the middle point of the earth.
True, before our Honorable President Mugabe passed away, there were conversations between Botswana, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Namibia to the building of the bridge. That was the first item. Initially, you would actually have to bring your truck, and then there were ferries that would then carry the trucks across the river, and it's shorter between South Africa and Zambia through the Kasane. And ultimately, I think about 4 or 5 years ago, we can officially now announce that the bridge between Botswana and Zimbabwe, connecting the 5 countries together, is now fully operational, which has a train, railway line. It has a truck, double alley. It also has a pedestrian crossing. I have been there already, and I've seen the project is finished. So right now, as we speak, trucks are beginning to do the imports and exports between the 5 countries. But so now that the road is there, we are now looking for people who want to get into accommodation, into hotels, basically the whole infrastructure of putting a city there. I think it's long overdue. You can actually take a ferry from Kasane into Vic Falls, into Botswana, into Katima, and it's a beautiful space where the Chobe River from Namibia and Botswana is meeting with the Zambezi River right there. And that's where the bridge is, literally about 500 meters away from the confluence, where now the Zambezi River, Chobe River, loses its name, and it becomes the Great Zambezi River, which pours into the Victoria Falls. But that whole area is a very fertile ground for tourism, indigenous plants, agriculture, and minerals. And I would even challenge the people in diaspora, if you are looking for a place you want to put your home, which will be the future for the next 100 years, if you are looking at Southern Africa, I would suggest either get something in Kasane, get something in Chobe, get something in Katima, get something in Livingstone, and something in Angola is about 80 kilometers away from there. Zambia is a stone throw. Yes, Zambia is a stone throw away. And by the way, Zambezi River starts in Congo. That's where the river starts, right in Congo. So it joins Atlantic Ocean and the Indian Ocean. And these are the things that I'm always excited about, to see the opportunities that we are sitting on. And I'm looking at hydropower generation. Zambezi River never dries up. Throughout the year, it will flow. I'm looking at water sports. I'm looking at tourism. I'm looking at municipality water supply, agriculture. Galore. It's a place to be. Next time you're in the South, I would be very happy to take you and show you a bit of what that virgin land has to offer.
Whew. I mean, I don't know how much evidence, my king, we can talk about how much impactful, how this Africa, this one Africa, is gradually just realizing itself in front of us. I remember when we started the program, you had talked about 200 years. That is going to take us probably 200 years. I also know Professor Kaba did a research on that. I say, oh, before you take us, looking at the trajectory and things that you've just go around and touch hands on, do you think we need 200 years, Mikey?
What actually, we can short circuit the project or the process of development. What I'm actually trying to advocate for right now is to get the political parties, because it is the politics that is run, the political parties that are electing the leaders. And I think for too long, we've been talking about business conferences, education conferences, indigenous knowledge conferences, and we've ignored a very critical part. And these are the political parties, because the political parties then elect their leaders into power. And I think we needed a political symposium of the 4 countries. And if we follow Zambezi River for another 500-600 kilometers down the road, we're in Mozambique and we're in Malawi, so to speak. So basically, we could look at Malawi, Mozambique, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Angola, Botswana, and Namibia, and parts of Congo, actually becoming one big belt that is joined at the center of their conversation is the Great Zambezi River. And if we can get the political parties to have an agenda item in terms of planning and preparing for this quality of conversation, to say, okay, ZANU-PF in Zimbabwe and SWAPO in Namibia, UNDP, while you are doing your political conversations, do you have plans of this nature where we can begin to allow our political powers and leaders to actually invest their efforts and money? I mean, look at this city being built. You need one currency, because you cannot have that mega city and you still have 5 passports to travel between the countries. You cannot be talking about 5 currencies in that kind of space. You cannot be talking about 5 languages. So sooner or later, we're actually beginning to see such projects become the boiling pot of the very conversation that we are talking about. When you talk about we need a one Africa, here is a practical boiling pot where this project can be tested, to say, if we say we put a cosmopolitan city around Kasane, Kazungula, you know, Katima Mlilo space on the Great Zambezi. Every country stands to benefit. And the question is now, how do we begin to trade in these kind of spaces? How do we travel between? It's unbelievable that while you are sitting on the Livingstone side, you can actually see people walking across the Zambezi on the Botswana side and on the Namibian side and on the Zimbabwean side. And I'm saying to myself, for crying out loud, the canoes, people are catching fish across. And I felt bad. I think that was on Saturday night when I sat there and I looked and the hippos and the crocodiles are moving across the river, grazing on that side and coming this side. And I said to myself, actually, animals are freer than I am, because animals can eat grass on this side and eat grass on the other side, and they don't need a passport while they are traveling around. But here I am as a human being. I must go through some immigration and get my thing stamped. The police are running up and down the river to make sure people don't cross the river to go to the other side, and soldiers and guns are, and I'm looking, I'm saying to myself, what? And these are African soldiers, these are black people holding guns at each other to make sure you don't cross the Zambezi and go to the other side and go, and children, parents, families are across the river. You can actually shout across the Zambezi River to someone there, but they are in a different country than you are. And I think this project for me just hit me with such great depth of the impact of the colonial borders that they have, because children have been married across this river for hundreds of years. I mean, it doesn't make sense that up to now, you can still tell a fisherman that, okay, the fish that you caught is from Zambia. You must go and pay the tax in Botswana, and the water that you're drinking is in Namibia. You must go and report it to Angola. It doesn't make sense for the life of me.
No.
That we could be in this so-called African independence, yet we are not even experiencing, practicing, or having a life, enjoying the benefits of, like right now, the water is so low on the Zambezi River. In some certain spaces, you can actually walk across. You can literally walk across the Zambezi from one end to the other. And it is that amount of connectivity that I would like to start encouraging the political parties, in particular, the political parties, to say, please, can you stop giving us manifestos of slogans and begin to do practical impact community changing projects that the Zimbabwean government, Botswana, Namibia, Angola governments could begin to think and think constructively for the sake of the people. And I can put it on record that before his Excellency Dr. Hagi Genkop passed away, I had a conversation with him, which is right here on your YouTube channel. Some of the things were edited out of the interview. But one of the issues I raised with him is that the Botswana government and the Namibian government were walking across the borders, shooting people that were crossing the borders. And I had a heart-to-heart conversation with Dr. Hagi, and I challenged him. I said, you cannot be a liberation leader, and yet your black soldiers are killing black people. Who are the Khoisan, the Nambias, and the Himbas, who have not known borders, and they are walking across because the government here. And I'm glad Dr. Hagi phoned His Excellency Masisi in Botswana, and they had a conversation. As I'm speaking right now, before he passed on, the passports were removed between Namibia and Botswana. As we talk right now, I will not take credit, but I made a follow-up call with Masisi. I spoke to my president in Zimbabwe, and as I'm talking to you right now, Zimbabwe and Botswana have also removed the passport control measures. I'm trying to reach out to Hakainde in Zambia to see if we can actually begin to do a Namibia, Zambia, Angola, Botswana, Zimbabwe a borderless economy. For me, that's a great achievement, which I'm very excited to keep on. We'll keep on making noise. Those who can hear will hear. Those who think we are just waffling and making noise, it's okay. But there are some meaningful movements and changes that are beginning to happen, and political leaders are beginning to take us seriously. And if they can begin to implement some of these conversations we are having, we are very sure that Hakainde in Zambia, he can do better than he is doing right now. I believe that the political conversation in Namibia, I'll be there, I think, in another week or two, and they can do better. My president in Zimbabwe, I'm very confident. He is more than ready to participate. And Masisi is a very level-headed leader. And this is what I've always been saying, that our leaders must start calling meetings that are meaningful. I get fed up of this Africa Unions and China conference, European Union conference, where our leaders just go there to take pictures and look pretty for their offices. But when real issues that we need the people to start discussing, the issues of passports and currency, creating a functional Africa, when we call on those meetings, then every African begin to become very technical, others become very educated to tell you why we must not meet. Why must we keep Cameroon as a country? Why must Cameroon not remove its borders from Sudan? Why must Zambia not remove its borders from Tanzania? And then people become so educated, and you ask yourself the question, if colonialism was bad, then how can we be glorifying the borders that created the governments and the countries which we call countries, which I have come to call provinces right now? They are not countries. They are literally provinces. You can't tell me that across the river is another country, for crying out loud. So we needed to begin to have that in-depth conversation where our leaders must not look at their political powers into governments and constantly consider the Berlin Conference as the alpha and omega of African identity. And if the Berlin Conference is wrong and was wrong, then I am right when I say that all African governments are illegitimate. They are illegitimate on one sentence. They are built on the borders that are colonial. And if those borders were built by Berlin Conference, how can we say that a government is standing on the Berlin Conference demarcations, and yet we condemn Berlin Conference as wrong? When we condemn Berlin Conference, let's condemn the borders and the leaders that are coming with those borders.
Wonderful, loud and clean and clear, straight to the point. But like you said something very important, like we would continue to speak. We would continue because a lot is changing. And I think, like, if you're not coming to give us this feedback, we will not understand. People will not get the sense of what we've been talking all around. They just feel, oh, we're just talking. And that's why our voices matter a lot. Our voices matter a lot. It's not just only promoting the Africa that is in abject poverty, on which we know these are agendas that are kept, but the Africa that has this potential to uplift itself from that abject poverty. And these are the examples you're saying. And my king, don't say you don't take credit. Take credit, because you are actually doing the right thing, like we are doing here. So, but I want to ask something that I think is very relevant. You spoke to them. They do it, or they are trying to do it. Do I want to believe that most of the things we are saying and even gratifying and even uplifting these leaders, they have no idea about it? Is it correct to say so? Or they might have an idea, but they're not sure if they have somebody that reascertain them. Because if not, you wouldn't say it, they will not do it. But I believe that a lot of education, like we're saying.
Yes, in the light that they may be informed, but sometimes when you have power and you lack political will to implement those decisions, and I would say this again a bit on the louder side, that if you say you are a leader The question is, are you leading yourself? Are you leading people? Are you leading the colonial system? What exactly, when you are appointed or elected as a leader, the question is, what are you leading? Are you leading your ideas? Are you leading your community or your tribe's ideas? Are you leading the national ideas? Are you leading a regional idea? Or are you leading the continental idea? And I think every leader in Africa, all 55 presidents of them, will need to come back to this question and answer this question very personally and say, you are a president, you are a prime minister, you are a governor, whatever they call you in your country. The question is, what are you governing? What are you presiding over? What are you a president of? And if you need to find out, what does my community want? What is the best thing I can do for my country or my province? And how are these decisions that I'm making at a national community level impacting the greater African agenda? Any president who does not understand what the young people are beginning to speak about, particularly in the line of the consolidation of the Pan-African agenda of a one Africa that we want. If you will become a political leader in the 21st century and you are naive to the Pan-African agenda, I want to challenge you. If you think what I'm saying is wind out of my ears, you must ask Ruto. If you think I am dreaming, you must ask you must ask the people in Mali. You must ask the young African countries, particularly when the young people, the young vote that you're looking for. And these particular 2 years, we're going to be seeing elections in many of the African countries. And if our leaders are not sensitive to the agenda items which we are putting on their shoulders to implement, you may find that you're actually leading yourself and your wife and your children and the great African population. You're missing it. The next best leaders we're looking for. Hence, I could even get up on public media and I can call Trory my president. Not that he's the president of the whole of Africa, but no, listen to the man. He has an agenda item which does not only speak to Burkina Faso, but speaks to Somalia, speaks to Ethiopia, speaks to Mali, speaks to Gambia, speaks to Zimbabwe, and the implementation of the nationalization of mine, agriculture, and an agenda that is focused towards African is what we're looking for in our leaders. Is what we're looking for. We're not asking for you to spin backwards and etc. and go and kiss Macron or go and kiss Xi Jinping or be found hugging Biden and etc. We're not interested in that. That's for your own CV. That's for your own walls in your house to say, okay, I was with President so-and-so, I was President so-and-so. But for crying out loud, all those pictures do not convert into our freedom and our expression, our sovereignty, our independence, and our personal lifestyles. So if you are a leader and you ignore that, you cannot say you don't know. Because what we are saying right now, in your privacy of your own home, you can download these videos and you can watch and you can learn. You can take notes and you can implement in whatever way you want to implement these things. But the agenda items are clear. We want a united Africa, and we will not stop. We will increase the volume until every African leader begins to take us seriously. And if you don't take us seriously in the next 3 to 4 or 5 years, hell no, we may have to begin to mobilize ourselves in our own polite way. And we may just have to walk up to the borders and we say, okay, thank you very much. We will plant our vegetables on the no man's land. We will no longer respect this border. And then you bring your soldiers to come and kill us who voted you into power. It becomes another political upheaval altogether. But why are you fighting us? When my grandfather is across the fence and the grandmother is across the fence, who are you to tell me that I cannot cross the fence? And who put that fence in the first place? So this for me becomes very personal, because I want to visit my grandmother in Mozambique and do so freely. I want to visit my grandmother in South Africa and do so freely. I want to visit my grandfather's house in Swaziland and South Africa and be free. I want to get to Zimbabwe and be free. I don't need a passport to go and see my relatives.
they will not leave us with a choice, as you said. I mean, I think the African youths, and they are majority. They are many. That's the beauty of this sector now. And this generation is a no-nonsense generation. I don't think it's a generation that would have that patience any longer. I mean, with elders and leaders like us being in the front line, actually pushing. I mean, we could also understand those days we didn't have any communication like what we have today. Even us, we have learned a lot by just being us. So I think everybody is in that process of learning. And honestly speaking, I don't want to think that we can give up on our leaders, because already I'm telling you, we can see just the Sahel Alliance and all the regions, the way people are already being careful, the way leadership is changing, the way young people are getting political education and politically involved and engaged. We saw even parliament. We saw the issue with in Kenya recently, with this impeachment of and that kind of a situation where we begin to experience that social African governance like we always been. It has never happened like this, my king. And I think we are just on track. Everybody has to do their job, correct?
And I think while we are on that, the hunger for power for African leaders, many of them, they are politically hungry, but they are economically stupid. I'm sorry to say that. They are economically naive. Why do I say that? How do you get into power and you don't understand the basic DNA of business? For example, power generation, just electricity, is a game changer. Where when you are able to create, whether it is solar power, or it is green power, or it is fossil power from coal and oil, you are able to activate your industries, manufacturing and processing. With manufacturing and processing, are you aware right now in Zimbabwe, you buy a bag of cement for $20 US, 21, 22 US dollars. The cheaper one, about 17, 12, $11, the cheaper cement, but the good quality, $20, $22. Now, in Zambia, the same cement is being sold for $8. And you have immigration laws that you cannot buy cement from Zambia and bring it into Zimbabwe. Why? Because the cost of money in Zambia of producing cement is cheaper. But let me just give you a quick outline. We have limestone. We have limestone in Zimbabwe. What is expensive is to burn the limestone and convert it into cement. If you can drop the price of cement from $20 US into the $10 margin and the $5 margin, or even 90 cents for crying out loud, like it is in America. Are you aware the amount of buildings, construction, houses, factories, homes you will be able to, I will be able to afford to take my $300 and get my 10, 15, 20, 30 bags of cement and build my home? So we don't need donations from government. We need governments to activate the financial and the economic enablers that then make resources equally available. We have steel in Zimbabwe, which is from our iron ore, steel and cement. That's how America built its own city. The bridges of San Francisco, the United Nations buildings were built by the Rockefellers. What are the Rockefellers? Where did they make their money? They made their money from cement and steel. And when you get into African countries and we are not aware and we listen to this knowledge that is coming from a colonial system that tells us what we can do and what we can do, this is what you must do with your oil, this is what you must do with your coal, and yet they build their economies on the same fuels that they're now refusing us to build our economies on. Then you want to begin to say, guys, let's be balanced here. We are developing, and we needed to have our political leaders have an intelligent knowledge. Food security is number one. It's a non-negotiable. We will plant what we eat and we eat what we plant. That one is a non-negotiable. We will not plant coffee. We will plant food first, because we cannot plant coffee and then we use the money for coffee to import bread from you again. Then we are stupid. We can plant our food and we eat. So food security is a non-negotiable. And secondly, power generation is a non-negotiable. You can talk about your green, user-friendly solars and etc. We are aware that these solars and what they are coming with the technology from the same people. So you can give us a 200 million donation for solar energy. But at the end of the day, we're going to give you back that money again, because we must buy the equipment from you, we must maintain it, and etc. It's a long story, which we can leave for another day. So power generation is a non-negotiable. Food is a non-negotiable. Sovereignty is a non-negotiable. We just want peace. We cannot be spending our budgets to be buying guns and bombs to be killing each other, when actually our education, our health systems and infrastructures are not in place. And Africa is always on this pathway of war, that our budgets for war as African government is much higher than our budgets for health, our budgets for education, and our budgets for food. We are constantly scared someone will come and take over us. That's why we need one army to protect the continent, and we can use our fiscus and our money to develop ourselves. So political leaders need to start thinking and need to start hearing these madmen talking from the south, that we are not going to be worried going forward of how you are viewed and how we are viewed by the colonial white supremacy economies, how we must run ourselves, when in fact the basic things that activate our economies are right underneath our feet. There's nothing wrong with us tapping the great Zambezi River into a great power generation. There's nothing stopping us from converting the whole of that region. By the way, the sun there comes up at 6 a.m., goes down at 7 p.m. in the night. How much solar energy can you harvest from the, and temperatures are sitting at 37, 38, 46 degrees. For crying out loud, you can have enough power generation that speaks to the activation of the economy. But we have leaders that are in power, but they're not in control. And I think part of their brains have been left to play with children outside. We need well-educated leaders who will understand where we are as Africans, where we are coming from, where we are. And of course, they need to understand also where we are going as a continent. I thank you.
Thank you very much, my king. I mean, I want to celebrate and congratulate all of you that are joining this show. And of course, we're more than 125 watching, Cheryl. I saw you wrote 60. No, we're more than that. If you're here for the first time, please consider subscribing. Even if you're not here for the first time, share and invite one another. So like our brother or sister Heike is saying, this is Real Talk. Greetings to everyone. We greet you too. We greet every other person that is watching us. And this conversation actually is mastered, created, brought uniquely from King MAPONGA Joshua, Farmers of Thought. We know that. Probably you're watching from Farmers of Thought's platform. We want to congratulate you, or from Joshua MAPONGA Court, or every other platform that you're watching from. I want to welcome you here. We haven't been this many on the platform, and we know that when King MAPONGA is here, he's the one that strikes up the numbers. I mean, to hit 100, 150, 200 and stuff like that. So yes, just to give a feedback on that point that you're saying. You said the leaders, you might be a leader, but you lack the political will. And number two, that we're investing a lot on wars than on, let's say, innovation or in young people, which are the driving force of the future, which are already in control, which are already at a majority now, and which we already see figures that in the nearest they're going to to consist of the global workforce, and to create jobs and industries and stuff like that. What we are getting from you is you've been in touch. We've been talking. You went back on post. You had to connect back, remind them of things that we're supposed to. Now, when you look at the impact of your work and what we're doing here on Pan African Daily and all the platforms that you are running, and you see the huge following, King MAPONGA Joshua. I mean, you are talking to youth that are future leaders. It's like at a clack of a finger, if you say, no, you know what, we're going on this, like you said, we want to peacefully mobilize, it's going to happen, isn't it?
It will happen. It will happen, but I will be responsible. That I would not want
No,
to
I'm sorry.
mobilize.
I'm sorry. Just 1 minute, please. I'm so sorry. What I wanted to say or to repeat your question or something that you said here that we're experiencing. You said time is coming when the poor people will eat the rich. And we're beginning to see that when things get so close, money is lacking, the currency is just not circulating again. What do you think would happen actually from what we're seeing, my king? What do you think will happen? The young people are rising up. What would they do to the rich?
This is the stupidity that I am talking about. That you cannot say you are a leader of an African country, and yet your money, which you are stealing from the people, is not going back to the people. Your money is sitting in Mauritius. Your money is sitting in Dubai. Your money is sitting in Swiss banks. Your money is sitting in the Virgin Islands. And with all due respect, the Honorable President who is dying in France, Biya, whatever his name is, who has never been seen in the country for years, yet he's supposed to be a leader of an African country, but who permanently, he lives in France.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I don't. No. Wait a minute. I just don't want to make excuse, but I just want to bring an image of the latest what we have in Cameroon today. I mean, the president returned back to his country and was actually celebrated from what we hear from the news, and it's looking apparently like not restless or something like that. But I mean, we do know that for the past almost 3 weeks or almost a month, Cameroonians were crying and looking for their president who was somewhere, taking medication. But even on that point, 91 or 92 years, right? I mean, we do expect that anything can happen at that time. But logically, taking even the fact that you go for treatment overseas.
And again, I will not spare my words to anyone. That
Yes.
if you know that you have a chronic disease as a president, the best thing you can do is to go to Malaysia, is to go to India, is to go to China and buy the equipment and then build a place locally. Because you are not the only one who is sick with that disease. Many of your people also in your country have the same problem. So the fact that you are enjoying taxpayers' money, that you can fly in and out to get your heart fixed in China, to get your cancer fixed somewhere else, or your kidneys, or your bypass, or your liver, your dialysis, and other things. But in your own country, you don't have that equipment. Yet you are prepared to be spending 100 million for your own self. Don't you find that to be a bit selfish? And I would think that anyone who is normal in their heads will be to buy that equipment from wherever it is. You can even afford, Honorable President, to take that doctor who is treating you in France and pay him a full salary while he's living in Cameroon to look after you. And after he has treated you between 9:30 and 10:30, other people also in Cameroon can come into the same place and also be treated by the same doctor. So it's not that you cannot afford, Honorable President. You can afford it.
Yes.
And so let's not monkey around and put some cotton gloves in addressing the irresponsible African leaders who, when they get sick, they run outside the country to get treated. Yet they leave their own dilapidated institutions in their own country with little equipment at all. It would be polite for you to say, get that equipment, build state-of-the-art hospitals in your own country, and when you are sick, go to your own hospital. And by the time you die, at least you leave a legacy for those that are coming after you. So this whole story of a president who lives in Europe using taxpayers' money and then comes back home just to show face. And I read an article the other day of the public relations white woman in France there who is managing the public image and managing the social media space of how the stories of these leaders. This thing is going to come to an end. It's going to come to an end. And before we move faster than we think, we better have African leaders who are beginning to think progressively, particularly on the issues of food, health services, education. You cannot say you're a president of a country and your children are studying in France, and your children are in Edinburgh, and your children are in Harvard and in New York. Why? Because your country cannot offer your children, where you are the president, you cannot afford the quality of education that is good for your children. You cannot afford the quality of health that is for your own health. You cannot afford the quality of food that is coming from your own country. You cannot even want to dress up with clothes that are made in your own country. And yet you say you're a leader of a country. The question I asked you at the beginning, then what are you leading? What are you leading? If everything that is in your country is of an inferior quality and the best quality is found outside of your borders, then what are you doing with your inferior quality?
It's that's so pathetic, as you say. Next, probably the issue would be like, in the new Africa, I think Africans are wise enough and they know it already, that that's not going to be something that would be tolerated or that they would love to do. And I want to thank all of you that are watching and sharing. And yeah, I'm sorry if if sometimes I have to interrupt than usual. It's just because there are a lot of things that we discuss, which are questions that would be addressed, and so I'm actually sorry for that. But you know the way we do it on Pan African Daily, we have the whole time for us to learn, to ask questions, to actually dig into conversations that are of interest to us right now. So he's been kicked out of the show, as I can see. Let me try and bring it on this one. I have to remove you from this one. This one is not responding. Oh, okay. Wonderful. Yeah, you're back. Let us maybe, I know we've already touched everything like in the topic that we had to talk about, the indigenous knowledge systems. I think this is everything that we're trying to bring back to say, how does this actually affect our thinking? How do we combine both for the benefit of of a way forward, my king?
Our knowledge, when we speak about our indigenous knowledge, it is all inclusive. It is all inclusive. That part of our indigenous knowledge has to do with respecting ourselves, respecting our history, respecting the people that we are leading in the present dispensation, and championing a future that secures for our children. And if we're talking about indigenous knowledge, I will always use China and India as beautiful examples of how they've been able to tap into their indigenous medicines, their indigenous fashion, their pottery, their smith, blacksmith, jewelry manufacturing, and etc. Same thing with China. You can actually go to a hospital in China and you are asked, do you need conventional medicine or do you need Chinese medicine? Okay, this is aspirin from international, this is aspirin from the Chinese, and you can choose which one you want to be treated with. And you want to deliver your children the natural way, or you want to deliver them the Chinese way? Do you want to be treated this way or treated that way? Do you want to die this way or you want to die this way? You want to be buried this way? And I think these are the options that the African is stuck himself with a colonial system as the alpha and omega of what civility is all about, whereby you can only dress up like this to be acceptable. You can only eat like this to be acceptable. You can only be treated like this to be acceptable. You can only run your government like this to be acceptable. You can, and this acceptable word does not have its definition in your own cultural intelligence and knowledge systems. So you would find that actually as an African leader, you have become a reinforcer of the colonial system, which you went to war to fight against. Follow me very carefully. Because as an African leader and a liberation party, be it ZANU-PF, be it SWAPO, be it ANC, be it Azania, be it APLA, be it UNDP, be it BP, you can name all of them. You went to war to fight against colonialism. Underline that word. Now that you have fought colonialism, how much of colonialism are you still managing? How much of colonialism are you changing? How much of your indigenous knowledge are you bringing to the table so that the reason of your liberation can be that you wanted to liberate yourself from the colonial hand? But when you become the colonial hand in the hand of a foreign hand, then who are you? If I can ask any African president today, you are sitting in the same office that the colonial masters were sitting on. You are signing the same documents that the colonial masters signed. You are upholding the same law that the colonial system wrote for you. And you call yourself a president of a country. What are you presiding over exactly, if I can ask? In particular to my educated friends, by the way, I know on these platforms we have the educated people who say, let bygones be bygones. Let's move right into the future. Don't worry about what happened in the past. We're now in the future. Let's move right ahead into the future. Oh, well done. Well done for rushing to the future. But do you understand that the future was actually signed in the past? And until you visit the past to undo the system, you may find that you have actually become a puppet government in the hands of the colonial system to manage the same system that oppressed you. So I even want to say the presidential office must be decolonized. We need our presidents to be liberated. They must be liberated from themselves, from looking like white presidents. They must be liberated from their fashion of putting on those stupid little ties and blue suits, trying to look like British leaders. They must be liberated from national anthems and walking up to courts, following up some British mess that has been left by a white man. They must be liberated from a parliament that falls exactly under the Roman Dutch law. They must be liberated from the state house that has soldiers standing in front of them. How dare you make us as people to vote you into power, and you want us to be protected from you, or you want to protect yourself from us who put you into power? For crying out loud, we as people, we need security people to protect us from you, because you have become a thief, you have become a thug, you've become a vagabond, you have become an Uncle Tom, you have become an abuser of our resources to fulfill the agenda of the person that has put you into power. So who needs protection? Do you need protection from us, or do we need protection from you? Question: who is not safe here? Am I not safe, or are you not safe? Question: if people kill you, why are they killing you when they voted you into power? Question: ultimately, who wants you in power? Is it us or them who wants you into power?
Speak on, speak on, speak on. Teach, my king. I mean, like, some, like, you're slapping, the consciousness of some. I'm just loving the fact that you said, they should stop wearing those tiny ties. I mean, like, and blue suits. It's like a uniform.
I'm not mixing my words. I'm not mixing my words. You can go on your YouTube right now and Google the most famous speech that was given by the ex-president of South Africa, where he was saying, I am an African. I owe my allegiance to the Timbuktus, to the rivers and the felt. And you look at the man who is saying, I am an African. And there he is in a small little jacket and a tie suffocating him and say, I am an African. And I'm looking at it, Honorable Thabo Mbeki, with all due respect. And I almost felt like saying, Honorable, can you just remove that stupid little tie? Can you remove that jacket and be real that you are an African? And I'm not buying your face. You can Google a picture right now on your page there and put it up here. African presidents standing with Xi Jinping, or African presidents standing in United Nations, or African presidents standing at the Africa Union. Just I'm not exaggerating. Just show us African presidents. And when you are done, then show me the Indian president. Show me the Dubai president. Show me other presidents who know who they are. And for me to sit here and pontificate, sound educated, when our leaders are publicly demonstrating that they are embarrassed of their own culture. They cannot even, I mean, look at Cameroon. One of the most expensive garments that I have in my wardrobe, I got it from Cameroon. Yes. I've not even found an event right now where I can put on that garment. It has been in my wardrobe now for almost 2.5 years. But one day I will put it on. And you look at such
in Harare.
You look at such glory and beauty.
Oh yeah.
And here is your president coming from France from treatment with a stupid little blue suit. To prove what? That I conform. And he dyes his hair, puts on a thing, and bleaches his face. I don't know if that is true or not, but this can't be right. This can't be right to Africa. These kind of leaders, we need to find a big black plastic bag, we put them there and we throw them into the ocean. We don't need such leaders. Their era, we thank them. They've done their part. But going forward, we need leaders who are conscious, who are pan-African conscious, who are culturally conscious, who are woke to who they are. We cannot even trust such presidents to write curriculum for our children. We can't even trust them. We can't trust such presidents to design our health bills. We can't trust them. Approve our health and agricultural products. Even if you sit right now in Africa, America is pumping GMO foods, plastic foods, fertilizers, and insect pesticides, which are full in our tables. And the same Americans who are sending us these things are not importing the same goods that we plant for them. They want us to eat the poisoned food, and they want to order out of Africa the organic foods. Who is fooling a who here? And these companies are multinational companies that are bribing governments with election monies, bribing governments and presidents and prime ministers with bribes and money, sending their children to universities. And we are grown-ups now. We know exactly what's happening. So let's just take the cat out of the bag. When your president is allowing GMO foods to be on your table, it's because he is in partnership with the people that are supplying the same goods that are destroying his people. So you look at the health system, and then you wonder why Africa. But look at the health system and how the health and food is directly linked to the education and the health system. You understand that we are collecting diseases in food. And then we are complaining that we don't have a good health infrastructure, when in fact we're making our same people sick with the same problems. Who is fooling a who here? Who is fooling a who? In 2024, with so much social media knowledge that is available, who is acting stupid here? Except our educated black brothers and sisters who think that development must not consider the value of life of an African. Why are they holding up to that narrative? Because they are now CEOs of the companies. They are directors of the companies. They are now managing partners of the same companies that are putting poison into the system. So they cannot lift up their voices to condemn a system, because that is the system that is paying bills for them. And we, as common people, must continuously sit down and say, it is okay. He's in leadership. We don't need fake leaders, murderers. I call some of them murderers, even if they're not taking guns and shooting us. But through our health systems, by pumping these contraceptives, birth control issues into women, giving us poisoned food, allowing companies such as Coca-Colas and Pepsis to be putting these poisonous drinks on our tables, signing contracts with Chicken Lickens, KFCs, and McDonald's. Oh, my city is now developed. How? We have a KFC now. We have a McDonald's now. For crying out loud, Susan, tomorrow go and buy a McDonald's burger, leave it on your table. It will still be fresh 6 years from now. That's not food that even flies cannot eat a McDonald's. Yet our governments talk about we are succeeding because we have McDonald's in our city, when we know fully well that the side effects of these junk foods is eating into our health infrastructure. I would approve a McDonald's in my city, but 30 to 40% of their budgets, I'll be calling it on them and feeding it into the health system, because the diseases that they are causing, they must be responsible for fixing those problems. I will be charging Coca-Cola tariffs that are through the roof, because the sugar that they're planting into the system is eating into our health system. Who cannot say this, for crying out loud? And World Health Organization would want to look like a Mother Teresa on top of the health system of the world. But yet you know from your own researches as World Health Organization that some of these companies that are funding some of your projects are the causes of the problems that you're trying to solve through the health systems. Who is stupid here? Who is a fool here? We are complaining of prostate cancer, cervical cancer. We're complaining of fibroids. We're complaining of breast cancer. We're complaining of heart attacks and blood, what this and that. The fastest disease that is killing people is this and that. And you ask the same person who has produced that report, what are the causes of these diseases? And you will find that all these companies that I am talking about will be ranging on the top 5 of the causes of the disease, including their pharmaceutical partners, Johnson's and Johnson's, and who does not know? Who does not know? And I'm glad finally the whole embargo and moratorium on freedom of speech as far as COVID is concerned has fallen off to space. You can Google it on your page and feed it to your audience. 17,000 doctors have come together, medical doctors have come together to condemn the COVID-19 experiment as inhuman. And governments have been involved in an inhuman exercise to conduct an experiment on human existence, causing millions of deaths. And no one would raise up their voice to say, honorable presidents and honorable ministers, health ministers, honorable United Nations, you are fake, you are criminals, you are evil, and no one has ever told you on your face that you are just like your mother, the devil. That you can cause so much disease, and you want to wipe your eyes and wipe your face as if nothing happened. Let life continue. And you don't want to be responsible. That's my problem. You don't want to be responsible. And yet you talk about human rights. Oh, wow. Thank you very much for addressing human rights. So finally, you know that human beings have rights. Can I ask a question? do human beings have a right to live? And what do we call a person who institutes, instigates, experiments, distributes, manages, twists the government protocols, government budgets, even cause governments to spend taxpayers' money toward the destruction of their own people? Because you are the international community, you know what is best for the community, and you kill them, and no one will hold you accountable. The ICC right now is as quiet as a stone. As quiet as a stone. No one will want to open up the file of COVID-19, syphilis in the previous generation, gonorrhea in the previous generation, HIV in the previous generation, malaria infection in the previous generation, birth control for women in the previous generation, which are facts and statistics that are all over classified files and now on the international public site. If we had justice and our court systems were working, if our lawyers were working, if our governments were working, I bet you I would be suing. I would be suing the United Nations. I would be suing Africa Union. I would be suing America. I'll be suing every doctor who has distributed medication, vaccinations, which have caused all these deaths amongst our people. We cannot wait for another 30 years for these files to be raveled back to us. Thank you to social media. This is now public information. They cannot sit on it anymore. Anyone who wants to know, they will know. And if our leaders in Africa will constantly think that the West has our interest at heart, listen to me, young people. These presidents will kill us all for a dime and a song. Some of them, they have no interest at all with us as Africans. They know where their bread is buttered. They know where their money is coming from. They know who is paying for their school fees and their holidays in international destinations. They enjoy the VIP treatments around the airports, and they enjoy protection wherever they go. They have no sense of where the African poor people are. Neither do they care at all. The only day I'll begin to take them seriously is when they begin to prioritize the pain, the anguish of us as common people. We are not poor. We don't need money from anybody. We just need leadership that can manage our resources. That's it. What they've stolen, they've stolen. There is still enough in Africa to clean up our health bill, to clean up our financial bill, to develop our economies, build better schools, better health institutions. And where you don't have enough, talk to your neighboring country. Create the unity that we need, and the resources are available for all of us. I thank you. I'm sorry. I just thought, let me speak what is in my heart, and whatever risk that brings with it, so be it.
Freedom of speech, and you own your opinion, and everything that you say, like we say, everybody shares their opinion from what they think, from their expertise, and from that. So it's nobody's going to talk down because of situations that we do see that, you know, it's affecting a whole continent, a whole people, a whole nation. And I mean, it's really terrible, because sometimes you don't even understand what the world wants from Africans. They stay on the continent, oh, they are affected. They leave the continent, they are dying at sea. They, you know, like, what is the future of the African child? You don't have peace in your own continent. You go out of your own continent, you don't have. Everywhere the African child has a problem. is seen upon as a problem, as a person. If disease don't meet us on the continent, they will say we are carrying disease from the continent to bring into another continent. Like literally, you just like, what is actually the role? I mean, like, I think we're left on our own, really. I don't even know how to, I don't even know how we can say these things again. Like, we really, literally on our own.
They call the Africa that we live in, me and you, they call it the dark continent. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to ask the question. How many hours of sunlight does Africa have per day for it to be a dark continent? Is it the absence of light as of the sun? Is it the absence of knowledge? Is it the absence of leadership? Is it the absence of knowledge of history? Is it the absence of personal determination? Is it the absence of junk foods? Is it the absence of TVs and radios? Is it the absence of tarred roads? Why do you call Africa a dark continent? It is dark from what? How much light does Africa need for you to say Africa is not a dark continent? And if Africa is dark, then what are you doing as a white man in a dark continent? What are you doing here? Oh, we come here to bring light. But in the midst of you bringing light, are you not aware that your type of light is destructive light? Because your quality of information, if it does not recognize who we are you not aware that this information is destroying Africa from what it is? The question is, when you go to a crocodile that is in the river, would you be able to tell it the value of water? Would you want to sell water to a crocodile when actually water is part of its existence? Which part of Africa do you want removed from the Africans for you to say Africa now is full of light? So we are an embarrassment to you as Africans. We are a disgrace to the international community as Africans. The Chinese eat human beings. The Chinese eat dogs. The Chinese eat donkeys. They eat rats and etc. They're not an embarrassment. The African who eats an impala and a buffalo, that he's an embarrassment to the international community. The Indians bury their loved ones, bend the ashes and throw them in the river, and people drink the water down the river. They're not an embarrassment to the community. The African who buries his loved ones in the grave, he's an embarrassment. The African who can treat himself is an embarrassment, and he brings diseases to the West. The question, how many diseases has the West brought to Africa? Through medicines, through vaccinations, and through immunization. How many diseases? Who is bringing diseases to the other? You did not find the African child sitting under a tree, dying, doing his last kicks. And then the white man came, oh, let's resuscitate him. No, let's put some oxygen on him. Come on. You found a nation vibrant, dancing, singing, fishing, celebrating, building at their own pace, having their own lives, totally undisturbed by anybody and anything you may want to call Western. And you call them barbaric and uneducated. When the African is now educated and they're filling up your borders with their education, you call them immigrants, illegal immigrants. You call them aliens. But why must they be alien? because you were the one who gave them the alien information. You gave them the alien system. So when they come to the alien world to practice their alien skills, do you have a problem? Had you left them where they are, would they be where you are? And above everything else, do not chase the African from Europe. They are just following where their resources are. Because when you take the African resources as raw materials and you process them in the West, then the jobs are being created in the West. And the African child will follow his gold, will follow his platinum, will follow his bronze and iron ore and come and work in your factories because you think that these materials cannot be developed where they are. So the whole idea of migration of Africans into Europe is basically sitting on a fact that where raw materials are being exported into, that's where labor is, and that's where the African would be. I thank you.
It is clean and clear. The labor, when they need us, when they need the African, it's actually disturbing, my brother Soto. Like it's really disturbing to get these facts, but this is a fact. But at one point, I think in MAPONGA is, you know, when people are powerful, and how do you do? So this also shows the strength of the African. I think it shows the strength of the Africa, because I've never seen, you know, how much hate, how much bad narratives, how much bad talk, how much, like, nothing good comes from Nazareth, right? How much could an African child be taught? But you need them. You need their continent. You need them to work for you. You need them on other things that you say. But I don't even just think you need them for that. You need their artifacts. You need every other thing. You need their government. Even you need them to consume things you made. And like, when would this? I mean, it starts and ends with the leadership, like you said.
And while you're on that, we also need to highlight the evil of the Western system when it pairs itself with corrupt African governments. That actually the Western world does not want Africa to develop. Let's underline that, because the development of Africa directly hits on our export of raw material. I'll slow down on that. You're talking about China being the biggest producer of cars. Thumbs up. We're talking about China being the biggest producers of cell phones. Wonderful, wonderful. Talking about them being biggest producers of fabrics and textile. Beautiful. Question: where are they getting their raw materials from? So once Africa begins to industrialize, to machinize, to produce, to manufacture, to process its own goods for domestic use, Africa will begin to become an exporter of finished products. This is where I want to challenge every African in diaspora. Every African in diaspora who is educated. I challenge the professors, African professors at University of Massachusetts, University of London, Cambridge, universities of New York, Edinburgh, universities, wherever. Every African professor who is there, come on, professor, listen to the fool. It's high time you pack your bags, pick your skills, come back to the continent. Implement your dissertations. Those dissertations cannot be gathering dust at Harvard University. You receive accolades, best professor, best this and this, and you are happy to be receiving a placard in a foreign land of how much you have contributed towards that country, and yet your own continent is suffering. If your government chased you away, it's not the only government. There are many other African countries around. Bring those innovations, bring those industries, bring that knowledge, back to the ground. Process our minerals, I beg you. Process our coffee, I beg you. Process our coltan into these cell phones, I beg you. Bring the machineries from China to produce lithium batteries, I beg you. Let Elon Musk give us a 3-5 billion deal in Africa to produce batteries for him to fire up his spaceships and stuff like that. It's time now for us to colonize the world. And we are going to colonize the world by using their knowledge into our manufacturing and producing world-class products and sell them back to them. That's how we're going to get out of this mess as Africans. And I hate to be talking about politics. As I've said in the past, politics is entertainment for the poor. Those that have no money spend time running in the streets and lifting placards. People who really do politics are doing business, because business buys politics. And I'll say it, hashtag me for all I care. Politics is a prostitute of economics. The one who pays the bills determines the politics. The one who corrupts the leader towards election is the one who runs the agenda of the government. So before you can even talk about politics, just find out who put their money into the political system. You will know who will control you. So African Union must just shut up and be quiet. It's a European Union agenda. It's a Chinese agenda. So we have nothing to expect from them. They are non-functional. They are non-present. It's just a window dressing. Because ultimately, the development of Africa simply means Africa will slow down on importing goods and increase on exporting final products. When we get there, now I can become an economist and we can talk about the GDP, because now it is the balance between what we are importing and what we are exporting. We have oil in Angola, we have oil in Somalia, we have oil in Nigeria. Thank you, Dangote. I hope that those pipes will not be pushing back that oil into Middle East and into Europe, but those pipes must start moving down into Africa, because the abundance of energy and fuel reduces the cost of production. And once cost of production goes down, people can afford the lives that the whole of Europe and the United Nations is always talking about. We don't want to be looked at as a pity party, a donor funding destination where we are collecting donations from Western countries. We want to champion our own destiny with our own resources. And if it means we must own our mines and chase away multinational companies, so be it. If it is for the benefit that what we are mining, we are producing, we are processing, and we are selling as final products. And I hope that the example of Zimbabwe will start making sense as the government has implemented, as Burkina Faso has implemented. I hope all other African countries can start learning. No more sale of gold out of Africa. Dig your gold, put it in a reserve bank, then photocopy papers we call money and give to the West those photocopied papers to produce a piece of $100 bill. $100 bill. Hold on a sec. Where am I? Hold on right there. You can research on this and Google. Those of you who love Googling. Here is a $100 bill I'm holding in my hand. To produce this costs 18 cents. 18 cents. And you fly from America with a briefcase full of 18 cents. And you come and buy gold worth 340 million. And you leave in my country pieces of paper that are 18 cents. I don't know what kind of cigarettes our leaders are smoking to collect pieces of paper. Pieces of paper. So we dig our gold, our platinum, and our lithium. We stockpile it. Then we print these 18 cents papers, and we can give them to the world as a currency also. And when they come into our country, they must buy using our pieces of paper. Let's see who is a fool at the end of the day. This is economics 101.
Yes.
Value for value. You can't take these pieces of paper and you get land. And land matures with what you put on it. And this piece of paper loses value. By the end of the year, I could be holding $60. I could be holding $40 with a piece of paper. Foolishness of world economics. To move away from mineral-based economies to paper-based economies. And all African countries are in debt because of these 18 cents. These 18 cents. Which we can photocopy also. Go to China and buy a photocopying machine. Go to China and buy a photocopying machine.
It's not funny, but I like the way you put it. It's not funny because, yeah, 18 cents. And you come and carry a bag of gold and diamond and silver. Oh my God!
You can ask your PA at the back office to Google the cost of printing $100 bill, and you can put it here. I'm not talking fiction.
It's not
a fact.
fiction. That's so true. Mm-hmm.
So we need, again, while we are talking about indigenous knowledge, we need to find out how many pieces of paper build the pyramids of Giza. How many pieces of paper build the pyramids of Sudan? How many pieces of paper build the temples of Abyssinia and Ethiopia? The cities of Benin, the great Zimbabwe. How many pieces of paper did that? And then you begin to respect that we were great before we commercialized our economies into papers. Because a person with papers is acceptable internationally. That's what the world runs like. But if we must go for our indigenous knowledge system, what is wealth? Wealth is me sitting in my house with my garden full of oranges and mangoes and avocados, with my chickens running, with my honey on my trees, with my fish in my ponds, and I am eating my food. I owe no man nothing except love. Good morning, neighbor. Hello, how are you? Good morning, how are you? And we are just doing fine. What's the use of going to school and study only to end up with a bicycle, a certificate, and a watch for 45 years of good labor? You were a good employee. Here is your certificate. Now go home and ask me what happens the day you retire. You want to go back to the farm and look after chickens and goats. Now, if this is where you were coming all along, why did you spend your time in an office only to walk away with nothing?
And come and go back to the same village and start rearing, in the end. And loving it there, and loving it. And loving it. You see, most of the returnees, I mean, like in that kind of a mindset, the only place they run to is the village. I just want to get back, get my cool head, drink my palm wine in the village, go to the farm, visit my people. After toiling for how many years, you go back to the same place you were running from.
Then what were you doing? What were you doing all along? It brings us back to the other discussion we had almost 2 years ago, when I mentioned adopt a village. Adopt a village. While you are still working now and you got ability, come on, dig a borehole, plant some trees, buy some chickens, do some goats, sustain your urban life with your rural economy. You may just discover that you have more money in your hands than you are spending on the same economy that is abusing you. So go to the village over the weekend, fill up your car with your food, and come back to town and work, and take the money from town, invest while you're still young, 30 years, 40 years old. Start investing in your retirement. Start putting your efforts and money into your future. Build a future that you are going to live in. You love satellite and etc. Put your satellite there. You love, put your solar panels there. Put your TV there. Continue to live your life, but slowly, as it were, unplug yourself from the grid. Develop an appetite for indigenous medicines. There's nothing wrong. Develop your appetite for indigenous foods. Come on. Yes, you can buy a burger. It's okay. But come on, go back to the village and improve your appetite. Because as we look and as we study, the very same things we were told are uncivilized have become the key of our health and have become the key of our economy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. I mean, do you want to take a 2-minute break while I share this interesting story about Haiti? And so you can drink something and yeah, I mean you've been doing a lot. Yeah, of course. So we can drink water and minor African business. Just a short break with MAPONGA J. And while we're having this break, we want to share this very important event that is coming out from one of us, like MAPONGA is talking about, all the diasporas put value, or the professors, anything that you've learned. So we have our beautiful Queen of Africa, Professor Baina Bello, who together with the Queens of Haiti put on actually a good theater or drama or film, about storytelling, about the heroes of Haiti and the independence and the warriors, as we do know, right? So I wanted to just take a break and look at the commercials. For those of you that are in California, or is it Atlanta, California, I think was the address that Sharon gave to me, Cheryl and Sivonia, you should not dare miss out on this event. It's a massive event put out there, by a team of brave women, girls, and talking about the heroes and the revelation of Haiti or IT, right? So please just watch the commercial. And if you have time, not just have time, make it a date to go watch it.
Haiti, fragile nation, land of the unexpected. You ask for more from Heritage, and now it's coming. Get ready for an unforgettable experience on Saturday, November 16th at 7 p.m. at the Coral Springs Center for the Arts. Join Yol de Rose and an incredible lineup of talented artists as they present a powerful play that proudly showcases the history of our beloved country, helping us to truly understand. Heritage is a collective effort involving more than 40 artists and technicians, all coming together to bring Haiti's rich cultural heritage to life. 10 remarkable voices will embody the roles of 10 brave female ancestors who made immense sacrifices in the battle for Haiti's liberation. The cast includes Carole Demesma, Laurence Durand, Béatrice Quebro, Tiffane, Misty Jean, Donald Theodore, Ta Famille Soleil, Darlene Desca, Fatima, Annie Alert, Riva, and Richelle Guillaume, all reenacting the pivotal roles these women played in building our resilient nation, Haiti. Heritage is the original creation of Yol de Rose in collaboration with Florence Jean-Louis Dupuis for stage and production design. Historical research conducted by Baina Bello. Choreography by Jean-René Desma. Heritage, Saturday, November 16, 2024, 7 p.m. at the Coral Springs Center for the Arts. This is the real deal. Tickets available now online or on site of the Coral Springs Center for the Arts. Heritage, don't miss out.
Wonderful, wonderful. You've all seen it. I mean, there's no place anyone of you out there will want to be than to be November 16 in California at the Center of Art. I mean, you can already look at the commercial. It looks so beautiful. It looks so great. I don't know how much we would miss, you know how much you will miss by not attending this or sharing this video around to our communities around there in the Americas. I mean, people booking tickets already. I think it's already probably sold out. And we're also looking on Pan-African Daily TV to do a musical also about the heroes of, of Africa, not just during the liberation of Africa. We already know about the Woman King. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's in Florida, not California. I'm so sorry. Where do I come from? California. I think I had somebody on the show today with California. Florida. It's in Florida, November 16. Okay. Yeah, I think that's the Center of Art or Theater of Art. So I want to thank all of you for this. Another announcement that I'll be putting out here for tomorrow's guest. It's kind of like a surprise, but we're gonna have him live on the show. Tomorrow is Professor James Small's birthday. So tomorrow is Professor James Small Day. And we do understand how, I don't know, the importance and the legacy that Professor James Small has left is living. And he's going to be celebrating what he told me, his 79th birthday. You can imagine the history, the life, the footprints of this legend. And yes, so I want us to turn out in all our numbers, hundreds and thousands, and let us celebrate Professor James Small, Baba James, as we call him here, our scholar, activist, dynamic speaker, professor, everything that you can think about. Tomorrow is Professor James Small Day. Tomorrow, same time, we're going to be here and we'll usher him in, a little late. So we'll start the show. Normally, I've told him that that I want him to be like guest, and he's been asking topic, but that's not, I've not shared it with him. But just know tomorrow is a big day in the history of Pan-Africans, in the history of our struggle, in the history of actually celebrating, one of our greatest legends. Like we say in African tradition, we don't wait until, oh, they are no more and we start talking all the time. No, it's the time now for us to celebrate and share, to share that love with them, and to share, to give the feedback of their great works and how their works have actually impacted their generation, our generation, future generations, like 4 generations at a whole. He stood for freedom. He stands for justice until today, from the day he was born at the age of 16, he says it, and up till today, it has always been the same. He has never changed. He has never minced word. He has never politically said something correct. He has standard. He has chosen his path, his purpose in life, and he has stood to it, just like most of us are doing, right? So please, I want us to come in our numbers tomorrow to celebrate our giant, our legend, our professor, our scholar, the indefeatable Professor James Small. It's the time again of the year where we celebrate our legends. I'm sending out this invitation to all the other scholars to join him live tomorrow, those that will have time. We just sit and just wish him everything that we can wish. And so you can call in the studio, you can text, you can donate, to his cause. He has an organization I found out, the Sons of Africa. in America, and he's been doing incredible job, you know, with all the other professors. So maybe why not? We can also support him by donating without asking or something like that. I know he won't accept, but you know, we mustn't ask to be able to support our elders. So I look forward to you, to him, and for you to share this flyer. I'll be dropping it in the, I think even here. I don't know if I can put a flyer here, but if you follow us on our social media space, you're going to see it. So yeah, my king, your professor is celebrating 79 tomorrow. So we're just saying it in the background. I would love you to surprisingly, you know, be on the show to wish him, even if no other person, but you are one of the people, you know, when he says no, Joshua, that's a brother. So we're extending the invitation to you for tomorrow and for every other person that would be joining us. So good. That's it for tomorrow, please. Now we are back to get the last conclusion, to get, you know, to water our hearts with King MAPONGA. And King MAPONGA is going to moderate the celebration of Professor James Small tomorrow, while I just step back to and be a guest. King MAPONGA, please,
That's
you're
right.
going to moderate.
Thank you.
You're going to host that. Thank you so very much. So, I mean, it like we're saying, it's time to really celebrate this kind of leadership, a leadership that has stand the truth of test. We're talking about scholars and professors that just go around, but this one is something else. Just like, I mean, you're building your legacy, your footprints are everywhere. Professor James started at the age of 16 till today, has never changed position, has never missed his word, has been focused and truthful to the cause. Imagine if we have how many like this, where would Africa have been?
And I think we need to respect our leaders for a simple reason, that the excitement of young people with political infatuation, which lacks historical knowledge and correct information. I think some African countries, they just think it's about a revolution. We want change. We don't care. We just want change. We may end up actually going a few steps back into the doldrums of our previous misery. The best political recipe I can give is the energy of the young people, circumcised by the wisdom of the old. If the young people can just master that corner, to say, where are we coming from? Where are we? What did we fight for? What do we have now? Then you pick up the baton into the future. Or else we will fall into the trap of African political conundrum, which is the sickness of let's start afresh. Every leader who comes into power wants to start afresh. I'll give you a clean slate. You can't give us a clean slate. You need to pick up from where the previous leader has done, is doing. Some of these projects that he is doing have been in the pipeline for 5, 10, 15 years. All you need is to implement. I look particularly into the spaces such as Zimbabwe for a deliberate reason that I came back. And when I look at the amount of development that our Honorable Mnangagwa has been able to accomplish, I would not give him 100% credit for everything that he has done. I would want to give at least 40% or 50% of that credit to the previous leader who approved the design of the dams, who approved the design of the roads, who approved the design of the parliaments, who approved the design of this and design of this. And when a new leader comes in, then he calls his permanent secretaries and say, okay, what was done? What is pending? what must be implemented. Because if you chase away all the permanent secretaries and you bring a whole bunch of new people, to get that intellectual property, what I call institutional knowledge, does not come with political slogans and youth viva this, viva that, viva that. You can't have that knowledge. I mean, look at Fauci as an example in America, the permanent secretary in the Department of Health, who worked with Reagan, who worked with Bush Sr., who worked with Clinton, who worked with Bush Jr., who worked with Obama, who worked with Trump, who is working with Biden. The amount of institutional knowledge that you have in a department spans over 30 to 40 years in an office. And you cannot undermine the stability of a minister, permanent secretary in the finance department, for example, or a permanent secretary in the Department of Infrastructure Development, or a permanent secretary in the Department of Agriculture. That you are able to develop that institutional knowledge over, so you can change your ministers, change your presidents, and etc. But there is a part of government employees that must be maintained, because it is here that institutional knowledge is handed over from one generation to another. And then you're able to have policy change, which is meaningful and well informed by where you're coming from. So we want also to advise our young politicians that, yes, we understand you're tired of us as old horses, but man, the new brooms sweep clean, but the old ones, maybe they know all the corners. So I would want to recognize Professor James Small as an old broom that we have in the house. It has swept the corners of Egyptian history, the corners of Black history, celebrating his achievements and his contributions. And he has worked with the Clarks, the Henry Clarks. He has worked with, all the best that you can find in the field. In the whole knowledge system is a library of information, and only a fool would say, I don't care. For some of us who love knowledge, I think when it comes on this show tomorrow, it will be my opportunity to listen and learn and collect. I grew up with my grandfather, so listening to old people is quite a pleasurable, because you don't need 2 ears, you need 4, if not 6 ears, to hear not what they are saying, also hear what they are not saying, and also hear what they are intending to say. But in the manure of their conversation, you may find that it is fertile ground to plant new ideas and drive towards the Africa that we want. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, it's really part of us. I mean, we're just rounding up the conversation, but that's part of us. That's part of us, like continuity in service. Honestly, I've never really understood it. Like, even if we say you are working for the Western system or the Western ideology, but there are things that you don't implement from them because they have that continuity in service. So it's some kind of a melange. You really don't know what kind of agenda they have. I mean, our leaders, because those are systems in political systems and structures that are really westernized, the continuity in service. That's why I think they have a right to say they can have elections every 4 years, because they know that you're only coming to take over from something that has already been. And so we keep disagreeing all the time that it's not possible in Africa to have a president for 4 years, because each and every one of them comes and creates his own agenda. And so we keep turning and turning in circles, not even in an office where we not even only the leadership, even in an office where a manager is, removed or maybe relocated, another one will come and start something completely new. Like, they have no idea. You go to any ministry on the continent, you ask, some people don't know. Don't even know what, like, they just burn the dossiers and the documents of the order and then start their own. We have countries that are owing us, our organization, money. And because we worked with the cultural department of the predecessor, and now they're owing us a lot of money. And you go to the one that is, they say, it's not my problem. It was the other minister that, that you had with. So what kind of a cycle is that? I mean, what is that? Honestly.
That's why I said in the past that in American politics, you can even put a dog to run the government. The government will not stop because the institutional structures. I mean, I feel sorry for Obama for all the right reasons. That with the beautiful CV and the faith that we had in him, we literally did not understand that he's not there to run himself. He is there to run the agenda of the big system. And so here we are with one of our brothers, Muammar Gaddafi, who actually died during the reign of one of us. And then you look around and say, so what happened? Because it was on the CIA, it was on the American agenda that Gaddafi is starting an agenda for the Africans that will destabilize the financial system of the West. So what do? Remove him from power. So even if Obama would walk up into power, he would not be able to stop the agenda which was outlined way before he even got into parliament. Guns were prepared, profiles were online, budgets were in place. You come here, chief, all you must do is to sign and let it go. And you cannot tell me that you walk into office and someone has been planning this mission for the past 15 years and you tell them that it can't be done. Same thing with Israel. The policies that are in place that even American presidents cannot do anything to change. You just get there and implement, because these have to do with militarizations and other government organizations and private organizations that have an interest in that war. So you begin to understand the international politics, that it actually runs in an autocratic dictatorship, hiding under what I might want to term benevolent dictatorship, which is pretending to become democracy. But in actual effect, what you are looking at as a democratic state is not democratic at all, because the multinational companies and capitalism, the system of capitalism by nature, it is a system that deems to harvest as much resources from everywhere else and develop yourself. So Trump is the best example of capitalism. We come first. America comes first. The rest of you go to hell. And I am here to protect the American interest. Wow. I'll clap my hands.
I think that's
clap
correct.
my hands.
What if
I
we
clap
think
my hands for
like
Donald
that?
Trump, and I say, if our African presidents can just take that line from Donald Trump and say, Africa comes first, then our problems are over. Our problems are over.
Right. Right. 100% correct. That's why no matter how we disagree with Trump, I love his policy for his people. No matter how we disagree, like imagine if every system would embrace its own like that. I mean, he's not saying he will not work with others, he will not network with others, but we're trying to put that kind of a person in an African body and mind and soul and say Africa first. I think we need really a real dictator in Africa who has the interests of Africa at heart.
That's it. That's it. And I think, having said that, we can begin to say, in our African political space, our leaders, our political parties, both supporting parties, they want to call themselves opposition parties or alternative parties, we need to put aside our politics, our party politics, and begin to talk about African politics as a collective. I'm looking forward to a day when all these political parties in Africa, not even the presidents, the political parties in Africa, just for once can call a meeting. And on the meeting, few items. What are we going to do about food security on the continent? Number two, what are we going to do about power supply on the continent? Number three, What are we going to do about pharmaceuticals on the continent? 3, what are we going to do about education on the continent? What are we going to do about the movement of our people on the continent? What are we going to do about the currency of Africa as a continent? What are we going to do about the security of Africa as a continent? And small items like that will see 10, 15,000 soldiers from each African country gathering together, building that African army, 10, 15 ministers of Africa coming together, shooting a satellite into the sky. Africa for once can have its own Sky TV, its own CNN, or call it ANN, African News Network, where we can also begin to do our own propaganda, share our stories, share our sports, share our news, begin to see our African pharmaceutical giant, which understands African diseases and begins to treat our African problems. See one currency for the African people, where we can move from, I mean, right now in my bag, as I showed you the other day, I have 10 to 15 currencies here, 10 to 15 currencies. One, this. When you cross over countries, must choose which money works where, which card works where. I finish 5 to 6 passports every 3 to 4 years because of my traveling. What's the fuss all about? If 52 countries can come together to form the United States of America, what stops us from combining our 55 countries into the United Africa that we want? And I think what we lack is vision from our leaders, who are so greedy for power that in their obsession with national politics, they actually don't respect the continent at all. Even in some cases, when their own parents are from other countries which are neighbors to themselves, they will still want to consider themselves as being this, when in fact your mother and your uncle and your brothers and sisters are from neighboring countries. It does not make sense to me that an African would look at another African as being a foreigner to him. And again, this is where education and colonial ideologies of segregation have settled into the conscience of the African, to an extent that an African has forgotten that the continent is bigger than the country. The continent is bigger than your country. And the resources of the continent will even make your country better. Because instead of shipping things from 5,000, 10,000 kilometers away from you, you look at Zambia ordering oil from Russia, ordering oil from Dubai, when their own border is in Angola. Like your border is Angola. And Angola is one of the biggest producers of oil. Oh, hell no. The oil must leave Angola and go to America and be processed there, then be shipped back into Africa at a price which local people cannot afford. Is this what we call Africa? That's a brain drain. The quality of our thinking, if it does not improve to be above our stomachs, where our politics is driven by the hunger of the leader, only to die and live like Mobutu Sese Seko. You die and you leave billions of dollars sitting in a Swiss bank. Now, for the past 25 to 30 years, even Congo cannot access that money sitting in some Swiss banks. And Switzerland is doing very well with money that has been stolen from Africa. Yet we talk about human rights, we talk about money laundering, we talk about African poverty. If Africa is poor, then show us all these African leaders who are smuggling money out of Africa. Where is it? And if you, first world countries, are really serious about corruption, the question is, why are you keeping that money in those countries when you know that money is stolen money from African countries?
Oh, it's insane. sometimes they don't overthink it because you think you just don't even know how to, I don't know. It's but one thing is for sure, King Maponga, this Africa is not for sale. You said it a couple of times, and like the good story that you started in the beginning, and we said if we were that, we would have. I don't think Africa would ever exist, but the powers that be and the structure and the spirituality upon whom which this continent. I mean, because it doesn't even make sense to say poor people, but they're buying all your stuff onto buying stuffs from all over the world, from America, from Europe, from China, from Russia, from India. Like literally the world is supplying Africa, feeding Africa with its, products, services, education, whatever that. But Africa is still thriving. Africa is still going ahead without industries, without something. Yes, we suffer really that poverty. We are also many. Sometimes we're also many. We're 1.4 billion. I think if you give nations like this to other civilizations here, they will not. Germany, how many are Germans, right? But it's a country that we compare always with a whole continent of Africa. So yeah, just imagine if we take the land space and we take the population we look at the level of suffering and poverty, we would really measure it out also with Africa. I do understand individual countries, it's really, really bad. But you see, that's where does civilization start and end? So the potential is there, it's all dependent on us.
It's a bankruptcy of leadership, according to the words of Professor Lumumba, where we need a different quality of leadership. If you have a group of sheep that are being led by a lion, then that becomes an indomitable group of militarization. But if you have a group of lions that are being led by a sheep, then you would find that the dynamics change drastically. We need new leaders that are not embarrassed and ashamed to stand up and be counted. Again, I want to raise Magufuli on the stage. I would want to call Kwame Nkrumah on the stage. I would want to call Lumumba on the stage. I want to call Sankara on the stage. I want to call, even in the darkest moments, I'm not afraid of calling Dada, Idi Amini on the stage with the black paints that are on him. You listen to the man talking and you listen to some of the stuff that he said. The man had an agenda where he declared himself as the king and the emperor of Britain and Scotland in Africa here, and made white people carry his chair. It might look a bit vulgar and etc. But when a black man asks for it, he is barbaric. But when the black people are carrying a white man, it's civilization. Oh, hell no, hell no. So you need a Traore breed of leadership that just for once, a Mugabe kind of leadership, just for once, without baptizing all the errors that are there, but pick up those elements. When it comes to nationalization, when it comes to land acquisition and ownership, when it comes to particular, Magufuli never traveled anywhere. But look what he accomplished within the few years that he was in office. Look at the change of the growth, the economy. Look at what Muammar Nyerere did. Education, translating books of mathematics into Kiswahili and allowing education to become accessible to even the most, the simplest in the community. And we cannot constantly be glorifying colonial, academic, political, economic institutions as superior to ourselves, only to end up becoming beggars and workers at the same system that abuses us. Start thinking, process these things. sharpen your swords, clarify your corridors of thinking, start looking, understand who your friends are and who your enemies are. Master this Trojan horse. Look at this poison that we're eating and drinking and come up with solutions, permanent solutions. Let's not have short-term solutions to long-term problems. Manufacturing, industrialization is our future. But even in the midst of industrialization, we must become intelligent, ecologically intelligent, that we don't destroy our homesteads, we don't destroy nature, and we end up living again in another concrete jungle. So we need to balance ecological intelligence with, industrial development, as it were. But I think the best form of development is to allow the Africans to live in their indigenous spaces, heal themselves, feed themselves, transact amongst themselves, respect for themselves, and have a future that grows at the pace at which they want to grow. We must not be forced and coerced into this blue chip, micro this and that, computer this and that. Yes, others can run there. So when we are all rushing towards this industrialization and globalization, let's allow another part of ourselves to be slow in engulfing these things. Because by the time this mobility towards a future that we cannot control is fully upon us, most likely we're going to lose ourselves in the midst of becoming like them. So I conclude by saying, while Africans are trying to be like Europeans and trying to be like Chinese, trying to be like Indians, trying to be like Arabs, question, are the Arabs trying to be like Africans? Are the Chinese trying to be like Africans? Are the Europeans trying to be like Africans? Are the Americans trying to be like Africans? So while we are trying to become like them, are they trying to become like us? Or else at the end of the day, we are going to end up looking like them and we'll have lost ourselves in the midst of an acquired identity, which destroys our sovereignty and our purpose of existence. I am an African, and I have a right of being an African. I have a right of living and be who I am. And everybody else, as I respect them, so they must respect me also. I thank you.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. It's a wonderful, always a pleasure having you here. So we look forward for tomorrow. I think you've concluded. There's nothing more to say. I want to thank you, dear listeners, this Pan-African Daily TV family here. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for your support. Honestly, this community, I don't know how I can say it again. It's just a chosen community. It's just the chosen one. I remember your first text, King MAPONGA. If you find such people, tell them they're the chosen ones.
Yes, and we must remind them to support the channel, send in your donations in cash and in kind, keep us afloat on the airwaves, and by the time they kick us out of these spaces, we must actually having been able to build enough resources to stand on our 2 feet. And I think Pan-African Daily TV, well done. Thank you for the resilience and keeping us live on your channels, and for all the endeavors that we anticipate. We will not be able to be where we are without the support of the community that is out there. So from the Caribbean, from Europe, from Africa, you can reduce a bit of your airtime, and please send your donations through also, so that this channel can stay afloat. I thank you, Doctor, and I look forward to meeting you tomorrow. What time tomorrow? 9 o'clock, same time.
Yes, we're going to start 9:30 because he would 9 o'clock because he would join us 9:30.
Okay,
So
I'll do my best.
yeah,
I'll do my best and log in, and I'll come and
thank
join the
you.
professor. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, my king. Good night, and we see us tomorrow. Yeah, so tomorrow, please come and show let's come and show love, appreciation, humility, respect for Professor James Small. He deserves everything. I mean, he deserves his crown now. Please come, let's give him his crown now. He deserves it now. He deserves it in this time. He deserves it in this period. Let us give him his crown now. Let us celebrate and show him who he is now, not tomorrow, not after. So tomorrow is that D-Day, and I look forward. I mean, these are our legends, these are our professors, these are signs of our siblings, as we call them, the captured ones, all the works that they've been doing. We've had all these voices from the continent and in the diaspora as well. So I really thank all of us for, for our kind support. Let us meet here again, really. Let us meet here and show Professor James and tell him how great he is, how much we love him, how much he has impacted us and the whole entire community, how much actually, we respect him and we stay loyal to him and pay allegiance to him. We have to bump him with all those beautiful words. Our strength, like we say, our wealth as Africans are people. That's what my father always said. Don't rely on money. Your money is your people. That's the African meaning of wealth, right? So please let us join here, celebrate Baba James. We are his wealth. We are everything that he needs. This man, this professor, this Baba, this scholar has gone through so much that God has kept him alive up till now. For us to be privileged to see him, to know him, to talk with him, to relate with him, it's a huge kind of a blessing that our siblings in America are bringing to the continent. And I think he covers the whole of the children in America. We hear how he talks on their behalf, how he defends them with every single my everything. So I mean, it's just time for us to give Professor James that I mean, like, I don't know how the standing ovation is not enough, but to really show him that this is who we know he is, for saving this community upon generations on generations to come. And he is still tirelessly doing everything that he was just coming from Ghana, to bury the queen mother of the community where he is, the king there in that community where he is installed. So you see, going around, and as he landed back home, he was running to South Carolina to his family. I think they had ceremonies there. And when I talked to him, he was on the road like tireless at the age of 80. Let's say 79, 80. How many of us would be at that age and actually still even being able, to stand to our dreams? How many of us will not drift apart? How many of us will not give up? How many of us will not actually even, forget about one another? No, Professor James never did that. That's why we say we role model our leaders. He's the role model that we need to pick up to, like any other Professor Baina, but tomorrow is Professor James Small Day. And Professor James has covered his territory, the America, and even the territory of Africa. He has done it on the behalf of all African Americans, all, I mean, all plus generations to come. He has fought it, he has stood it. He is the pride that we're seeing coming out there, the voice that is coming out there. It is time for us to give him what belongs to him. It is time for us to show him that Pan-African spirit of love, of joy, of solidarity, of celebrating our elders. Like we said, our money is our people. So I want to thank you. Please just share his flyer. I'll drop it out tonight or early tomorrow. We want to get everybody to come and celebrate Professor James. He deserves it so much. He's been doing a lot. He's been doing a lot. Like I said, most of us will be back, we're tired. But at his age, you still find him from conference to conference to conferences. He never says no. Tirelessly, like, what kind of a human being, what kind of a spirit is that? He never says no. It's the same thing like King MAPONGA. Each time I call, whether at what time I text, they're always like, just put me, just plan. They don't take excuses. It doesn't mean that their life is not important. They have a whole family. They have great-grandchildren to take care of. They have a whole nation. They have a whole country and everything. Yet they find time for Pan-African Daily. They find time to talk about us, to talk about our unity, to talk about why we mustn't give up, to talk about why it is necessary for us to hold on, to keep doing what we're doing. So I think it is worth it. Please join me tomorrow. I'm really appealing again. Join me tomorrow. These are the voices of all, like we're celebrating America. Let's just say like we're celebrating America, our siblings out there. So please, I thank you so very much. And we see ourselves tomorrow. And come one, come all, and bring his gift and his presents. All right. We just be pumping him just the love and everything. Call in from left, center, right. Just be calling in and wishing him and sending the hearts. It's not about any conversation. Just celebrate him. I'm trying to look at whether we can get some copy-free music that we can share and dance together. So I don't know. Anyway, so we see us tomorrow. And yeah, good night to all of us. Love you. Come safe tomorrow. Bye.
You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tata. The Africa we want. Unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 #1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa.